Welcome back to another episode here on the Heart and Hustle podcast. Our next guest, Jenna, says we don't show up with answers. We show up believing already have what it takes to end their own hunger. Jenna, I appreciate you. You didn't just stumble into global development. You actually were raised in it. How did growing up with do-gooder parents actually shape your path to do what it is that you're doing today?
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's such an honor to be here with you. Um, yes, do-gooder parents. I had a father who worked for the United States Environmental Protection Agency, where he worked on environmental issues, in cleaning up pollution, and in his community, in the waterways near where he grew up fishing and hiking. I had a mother who worked in special education and worked in schools where high school students couldn't kind of make it in the mainstream and got put into a whole different school system and really rough environments that she was engaging in on a daily basis. And they really taught me, I think, from the get-go what it meant to care about your planet, to care about other human beings, um, to to put yourself in situations where you can be of service to your community, to your world. And I think I just grew up really inspired by that. And from when I was just really young, wanted to just make the world a better place. That was just kind of the environment I grew up in. I wanted to be of service. I wanted to be of use, so that I could have an impact on people around me. So that's sort of that's. I hope that answers the question.
No, it does. It does. And I would actually continue to follow up on it. After 20 years or 20 years at the Hunger Project, what keeps you so fired up, like, if it's year one? Because I can imagine that every day is challenging, every day is exciting. You show up today, Jenna, by the way, with a huge smile on your face. So I know life is going good, right? Like, yes, there's challenges, but it seems like you're just so happy to continue to do what you're doing, even 20 years later.
And it's hard work too, right? Confronting issues of poverty, of hunger, and the harsh realities of um, that people all around the world, in our country and all around the world, live in each and every day. You know, I, it's I I find joy in my work.
Hmm.
I'm honored to be in my work, but I also don't want that to make it feel like it's not heavy work either, right?
Yeah.
It's hard, heavy, important work, and at the same time, it is an incredible honor, privilege for me to show up every day and have myself be used in this way. I've been at the Hunger Project for 20 years, and yeah, I get that question a lot. I was just doing job interviews this week, and everyone asks me that when I say I've been at the organization for 20 years, what keeps you there? And I share that first and foremost, it's the work, it's the mission, but it's sort of our approach to it, right? That it puts human beings at the center, that the foundation is human dignity. And that shows up in the way we do our work, but also the way we relate to each other as human beings at work. But secondly, it's the people. I mean, I think when we work in mission driven spaces or in work that has to do with having an impact on other human beings and making a difference, we are surrounded by incredible, passionate people like yourself, and we were just sharing, and people that are inspired by what they're doing, that want to make a difference, that want to support one another. And I mean, of course, it's joyful to be in a space like that, right? And surrounded by other human beings that have huge hearts and huge commitments to the world. I think that's what keeps me there, what keeps
Yeah.
a smile on my face.
I love it. And I can imagine that you hear sometimes, sometimes your work is so, I wouldn't say easy because we make it look easy. How about that? We make the work look so easy. There are some challenges that people always say, do you even work? Like, it's like you're just having fun all the time. And it's like, yeah, actually, that's because you don't see everything that goes on behind the scenes, right? As you lead an organization, especially something international, it is hard work. And what I really love about you is you start every conversation with dignity, not need. And that's a different kind of development work, right? When I actually think about that, what does it even mean to see people as creative, resourceful human beings and not so much as problems to fix?
Yeah, absolutely. This is like a fundamental. I mean, I think even just growing up for me in my life, I just really wanted to combat this thinking of us, them, or that, there's this disconnection. I truly believe that we are all human beings. We're all connected. Our sisters and brothers and other family members all around the world. We're all born equal in dignity and rights. And when I found the Hunger Project, it felt like home because of that, because it's the number one principle. And the way that we take on our work, and we use the statement, we believe that people are extraordinary. And you've said it, creative, resourceful, that people have within them the power to create lasting change. And that doesn't mean that there aren't systems of oppression, right? There aren't things that we need to fix in the system that are broken, that need to be overcome, and that we can't support one another. But I think starting from the fundamental basis that people are and can be self-reliant, and they have within them the power to create change, that's what we try to foster at the Hunger Project. And we do that at the community level, where we work in Africa, South Asia, and Latin America. But it's also, it sort of shows up in the way we work as individuals working as staff. And it shows up in the way when we raise resources from people or engage young people in our movement in the United States. Everyone's kind of showing up as part of the solution, as an agent of change to make the world a better place. And yeah, I love that that's at the heart of what we do, and it's certainly what keeps me driven on a day-to-day basis.
This is going to be completely off topic a little bit, but as I'm sitting here and I'm just kind of really staring at it, I see just this beautiful color on the wall, right? Then I see this plant. I'm a plant type of guy, but I'm like, wow, what a warm. I don't know if this is your home office or at work office, but was this intentional? This color, like, is this what keeps you at peace? We talked about the mind, keep the mind at ease. Did you do this purposely?
I am in my home, and so yes, the blue is peaceful, and I am surrounded by plants. I won't show you around because it's a little cluttered, but I am surrounded by plants because they bring life and energy and oxygen and all of that to the space, which I love. And I have, a little trivet from India on the wall. I also try to surround myself with things I've picked up around the world, that kind of make my work present. So it's also a great space in our office in New York, but I'm at my home office right now that I try
I
to
love
do
it.
the same.
And like you mentioned, plants. I don't know if I told you this, but I have 50 plus plants. And it's my thing as well. It does bring me peace. I love when I'm actually repotting plants. I love to see them grow. And, people make fun of me about these plants, but I say, listen, plants are like humans. Like, I've seen plant that I thought was dead, okay? Like, just had no life. And I just repotted the plant and says, you know what? I'm going to leave it right here and I'm going to see what happens to it. And then all of a sudden, this plant starts to grow a leaf. And I'm like, oh my God, this is what happens to us when we get out of the same environment and you put us in something where people are actually pouring into us. We talked about pouring into each other a little earlier. So that's one of the things I love about plants, to just see the growth over time when you nurture it and you take care of it. So you have these palm trees behind you. I have two in front of my house that I'm about to plant, but I'm scared to plant them in the ground because what happens when I sell my house? Then I got to take my palm trees back. So I don't plant anything in the ground yet, but I had one and it grew so big that now it's two. And now I have them on the side of the house. But I know that was completely off topic. But anytime I see plants, I'm a sucker for plants. Sorry, take the subject.
I think I love the metaphor that you use, and it's like the soil that you create around the plant too, right? You
Yeah.
mentioned repotting and the nutrients that you put into it. I mean, it's such a great metaphor for how we can grow as individuals as well. We have a t-shirt that someone made for our organization once that said, plant the seeds of self-reliance. And it's also like a way we think about our work in the Hunger Project too.
Oh, matter of fact, I told you this a little bit offline. I love plants so much that when I did create the journal, so there's a plant in the journal, and then every page, there's a new plant.
Oh, I
Every
love
page,
that.
even down the bottom. Like I was like, I want to do something that it really speaks to people, And you have to love plants to be like, oh, this is good. Like I love the plants, but that's how much I love plants. And people, my wife, I'm very weird. When it rains, I take every plant around the house and I put them outside to collect the rainwater. And you'll see me in the rain, just you'll just see me in the rain picking up these plants. And my wife was like, "You truly have an addiction." I said, "Well, this is probably the best addiction I can have right here. It's just being surrounded by plants." And I'm now starting to get into crops because I'm like so good at this. I'm like, you know what? Let me start to grow vegetables. Let me start to grow fruits because we have young ones and they eat fruits and vegetables all the time. They're expensive. Why is it so expensive to eat well, right? We talk about the 100 Project. Why is it so expensive to just eat well? This is crazy.
Um, One nice thing to have children and a garden, which we do as well. We've enrolled the children in gardening, and we have a few plots out in our backyard. It helps them eat vegetables they wouldn't eat otherwise,
Really?
which is a nice hot tip. So when we grew eggplant or peppers, they wouldn't eat pepper. As they were growing up, they started to eat the vegetables we grew in the garden, and so that's been our way
Oh,
of introducing new vegetables to the children.
I'm so excited. Are you doing your own compost and stuff?
Not yet. Composting is the next frontier.
Okay, so I haven't even got to the gardening yet, but I already bought a little trash can to start my composting. And because I have a lot of leaves, when I bought this house, there's like too many damn trees in the back. And as I'm raking, I'm like, look at all these leaves that I could use. So I finally just got, and every time my wife starts to throw away, like, we do a lot of fruits and vegetables. So all the, like, the strawberry heads or, all these different things, like, we could just be throwing that in there. So I'm getting there, okay? I'm getting there, Jenna. I love that you're into it as just like me. This is what, to me, I always say we have to find something that allows us to just turn off the minds. With the work that we do, one of the biggest things I heard is that, and I think I mentioned to you a little earlier, was no one taught us how to pour into ourselves the way that we pour into people, right? And to me, pouring into myself is taking that time to just dig deep into the the soil, and really help this become something, and really seeing it now manifest into something, right? We can plant seeds and we do see them also grow into something that's pretty cool. That in itself allows our minds to be like, man, look what we can do with a little bit of time
Right.
when we just plant the seed, and we just wait it out. And that's what we do as nonprofit leaders. That's what you've been doing at the 100 Project for 20 plus years. Some things you probably haven't even seen manifest itself, but you planted the seeds 20 years ago, or maybe you're seeing them now 20 years later. And it's to me, it's cool. And I think one of the things, kind of bring it back to the conversation, we mentioned about principles the last time we were talking about, right? I guess, which of the 10 principles do you actually see making the biggest difference when it comes to on the ground?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Um, yeah, I mean, we've spoken about human dignity, so I think I have a few other favorite principles: gender equality, sustainability, interconnectedness. But I think the one I would lift up right now is gender equality. When we It's such an important part of the work we do around the world and with our communities. We say our first pillar is to start with women, because when it comes to hunger in households, women are, they bear the responsibility for feeding the family. In many of our countries, it's the women who are doing the farming and growing the food that feeds their family, that feeds communities. And so intervening and ensuring that women are supported is a really important piece of our work. When we can intervene in sort of the generational cycle of poverty, a lot of times women may get married at a young age when their bodies are malnourished, and then they give birth to children who are malnourished, and the cycle continues. And when women don't have equal status in a household, they are fed last and least. Young girls are fed last and least. And so, an important part of our work is bringing awareness to that and to supporting mothers when they're pregnant or when they have young children, and to access healthy, nutritious foods, to understand, to create backyard gardens, as we were just talking about, and to be trained, but also to train the entire community, women and men, on the importance of women's rights, on the importance of proper nutrition for women and girls. And and that, to me, it just has exponential effects on families and communities. And that's been proven with studies worldwide, that when you can invest in women in rural communities, you really see improvements in nutrition, you see improvements in household incomes, in short, like everyone rises when you can invest in women. So I think for me, that's one that's really close to my heart. I have a young daughter. I just visited communities in Bangladesh where I just sat in a rural community with mothers, a mothers club of young women with young babies learning about nutrition, accessing prenatal care, and to think about the difference this will make for their children and generations to come. I think it's just such a powerful multiplier effect.
If the Heart and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure to guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you. Jenna, for the people that are listening or watching, if you could really talk about what does it feel when you go into a different country and you sit in these rooms with other women, right, that nowhere near have what we have, right? We are grateful for what it is that we are able to come to our homes to. But I've also been able to visit another country, and the love that you feel when you're in these rooms, right? Like you don't have the internet, you don't have all these different things, but you still feel so much love. You still feel like cared for, in a whole other country. While some may feel that it's scary, it is very scary. But when you come around people that are like minded and just want what you have, right? Whether it's just wisdom, the education, they'll do the work. Can you talk about the feelings? It's kind of probably to you now easy because it's 20 years in, but talk about, to me, I always feel as Americans, we should travel the country more. We should experience the world and see how other people are living. And I think it would allow us to really realize, like, wait, we could do so much more to really save this world. Can you just kind of talk about what your experiences are when you're going into these homes or into these establishments?
I think, it never gets easy, I'd say. And I just recently was with our work in Uganda and Malawi a few weeks ago. And it's hard. There are hard conditions, right? I visited a health center that we supported, worked with the community and the government to get built. And of course, I'm in a health center where there was none before, where people had to travel across a river to get to a health clinic. So the difference between then and now is huge. They have access to a health center and health clinic, yet at the same time, when I think about the hospital that I have access to or where I gave birth and I'm in the physical location that we have in this community, there's a lot of work to be done. And when I look at the lines of women and children and people that are waiting to access the very limited resource that's available, it's just there's so much work to be done. So that can be really overwhelming, I think, sometimes. And that doesn't necessarily, it doesn't ever get easier. In a way, you have to let that in because that's the reality, that's the challenge. And also that's our opportunity to continue to raise visibility about this work, the importance of it, and the possibility of continuing to improve. That being said, and I think you hit on this earlier, you spoke about the love. We spoke about the joy of this work. I spoke about the interconnection of human beings. And I think that's what's the most awesome thing, that it happens everywhere I visit the Hunger Project's work, is these principles that we've been talking about. They're deeply held in the communities where we work around the world. And the people that I meet are so driven and have such a sense of possibility and are leading change. And we are truly partners in this work. And that feeling of joy, camaraderie, friendship, interconnection is the most powerful thing to be a part of. And meeting people and being in households where people have come such a long way and they have even bigger plans for the future and they're on their path and they're making it happen. And the work I do is just a small part of making that possible. I mean, it's just an incredible honor.
Do you feel now with technology just evolving as fast as it has been, especially when we talk about AI, that this also is these things that are being implemented? Of course, we talk about never losing the human side of things, but making our jobs a little bit more efficient when we talk about the things that we shouldn't, admin work, the repetitive task, all these different things that we could really kind of give the data to AI especially when you talk about different countries. Are you guys using it? I know we're not replacing a human, but it's a tool and a resource that we could definitely use to kind of make life a little easier for us.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And we as an organization are definitely not on the leading edge when it comes to using AI. I think we're taking a more tentative approach at the same time. I mean, we're relatively small, nonprofit. Um, but I think we're looking at it in two ways. One, we're looking internally, what you're speaking to, like how can we create some guidance, some systems around the way we work. How do we use AI ethically? How do we ensure a human touch? How do we ensure that we have, like, sort of, we're maintaining standards around photo use and imagery and those sorts of things? So, tackling those very, I think, technical aspects of AI and creating some internal policies, privacy issues in meetings and note taking, all sorts of elements that show up around it. So, that's from an operational perspective, I guess you would say. And then the second way we're looking at it is how can we leverage this to our program, sort of what you're speaking to. So I know our teams around the world have done some. One of the areas where we worked as the Hunger Project is bringing, in partnership with Microsoft, bringing internet connectivity to some of our communities where there
Nice.
was none before, and making sure that that access is meaningful, that it's supporting the work in the communities to support education, healthcare, and making sure that it has that women are also able to access it in addition to men, because that can also be a problem in the communities where we're working. When technology is introduced, women can sometimes be left behind, and that gap widens. So those are some of the things we've been working on in communities. So I know as part of that work, we're exploring potential future projects around health monitoring and how we can incorporate AI powered health monitoring systems and softwares to bring into the communities that are accessing telehealth services or health services, or how we can use AI powered weathering tools for small farmers so that they they know about the weather patterns, when droughts are expected, et cetera, and can leverage some of that technology. But I'd say we're in early stage there.
No, that's good. I mean, you guys are definitely looking at ways, even if it's not implemented, definitely at what ways could be. And I think a lot of people don't even see that in a sense, right? Because there's still that fear of it. So I'm glad to see that you guys are utilizing it, especially across the waters. Like, how cool is it? Really showing them something that they probably never experienced. I think that's also cool as well. While you're doing all this work, you're also raising two kids. No easy task, okay? You are a super woman, and they're seeing you change the world. They completely get it. They understand what mom does. I can imagine that you have this conversation. What's the hardest part, though, of being away? But what makes it worth it? I can imagine there's something that makes it worth it, right? So if you could kind of touch on both of those.
Yeah, absolutely. I just took my longest trip away from my kids a couple of weeks ago. So it was they're older now. So my son's celebrating his 12th birthday on Friday, just a couple of days away. My daughter just celebrated her 14th birthday. So a little easier as they get older.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think definitely one of the biggest challenges is my demanding schedule, is the travel. Um, like I said, getting easier on the travel, but just the demanding schedule in general. It's a lot of time and mental energy, and making sure that I'm there and present for my kids when I'm outside of work, that I'm not also thinking about work. It's not playing, as we were just mentioning earlier, it's always there. Your passions are always there.
Yeah.
And I think because the work that, when you have sort of purpose driven work, you bring your whole self to it, right? It's there's not like this work life balance where that's work me and that's human me outside of work. I'm the same person whether I'm at work or whether I'm outside of work. I'm my whole self, and I bring all of it to everything.
Love it.
So I think just the staying present and the busy schedule are definitely the biggest challenge with small children. But I will say it is entirely worth it. I'd like to think that my parents doing purpose-driven work had a large part in me being who I am today, and I know that they're proud and inspired by my work, that they also have a, you know, a little bit of a different understanding on some of the issues around hunger and poverty than, and they're thinking about it like way more often than other kids their age are thinking about it. They ask great questions. They love getting snacks from the communities where I work.
That's important.
um, and they love sharing about it at school, right? And just being, you know, I think whenever I'm apologetic to them about having a busy schedule or being away, you know, they're proud of me, and that feels really great too.
Have you taken them on a mission yet? On one of
Not
mission trips?
yet, not yet, but
Oh
definitely in
my
the cards.
god.
Yeah.
You're getting them there with the food, right? Like a
Mhm.
little experience of what to experience when we get there. Oh man, I think that's really gonna open their eyes when they get to really see. You know, I'm pretty sure you show them pictures, but it's nothing like experiencing for yourself.
That's right.
And then I think it would really, wow, mom is really out here. Like the work becomes that mom is doing is like an eye opener for them, because it just looks like work to them, right? Mom's just doing work. She's doing a job. No, she's actually making a difference. She's leaving lasting impacts, changing people's lives, and I love that you are open to even explore different foods with them. Like that, that in itself, a lot of kids don't have that opportunity. But now you're opening their minds to outside of just our country, right? To let them know. I can imagine what that dinner table, the stories look like, right? Like, I'm pretty, and you're excited just to talk about it. Like, yeah, let's talk about it. Really leaving a lasting impact on your kids. Your kids, I can really imagine, would follow in the same footsteps as mom, right? You mentioned about how your parents were really the groundbreakers for you to get into this line of work, and what you're doing is going to continue legacy. You're continuing the legacy alive of helping one person at a time to change the world. So I appreciate that. Um, 20 years in, you've seen what works, you've seen what fails, you've seen what lasts. How do you continue to build those authentic relationships across cultures?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, you know, I think the one of the one of the areas that I think is really important, and we keep coming back to it, is like staying really grounded in our principles and methodology as an organization. And having that be the centerpiece whenever we onboard new staff or partners or stakeholders, we're making sure to have those conversations right from the outset to really align at the why, the highest altitude. Like, we are in this to create a world where hunger doesn't exist in the first place. And I think when people are drawn to that vision, really the dynamics of any working out any new partnership or any new funding relationship or any new programmatic um, endeavor, you, when you're centered on that why and in the vision of what we're trying to create, you know, anything's possible. That's kind of where I stand.
Yeah.
um, and I think that the other thing that I love about the way our organization works and that makes it easy to stay for 20 years is that it's designed to be kind of catalytic and strategic. So always looking at what's missing now, what can we do differently, where can we be high leverage. We know we're too small to do everything or to like end hunger in the whole world, right? We know we need to work with others and figure out what our role can be to kind of create the change we want to see. And that makes it ever evolving, growing, shifting, changing. And that's life, right? That also, you know, keeps you inspired and moving, and I think keeps things shifting and evolving in a great way.
I love it. Have you ever heard of the organization called Global Citizens?
Yes, yeah, global
So
citizen.
I was able to interview him, and just when I sit here and think about the work that he's doing, right, the global level, and what you guys are doing, it's like I love that we have leaders like both of you that have experienced life enough to say there's more needs than just our backyards. Of course, we still want to help our backyards, our communities, but the need is so much greater than us, right? Than us Americans. There's people out in the world that are living a life that's nowhere near what we're experiencing here. And that you are willing to give up your time with your own family speaks so much volume. Like I'm going to continue to praise you. I'm going to continue to just give you, you know, pour into you because you truly deserve it. Like sometimes we got to make sacrifices for the greater cause, and you've made those sacrifices. When you talk about being a parent and leaving your kids behind, your kids may not notice it now. They'll appreciate it so much later when they realize, like, man, mom really gave her life to help others. So I'm just so excited to see what it actually continues to move on. But I also think that there's a lot of young leaders that would love to do this line of work, that would love to spend 20 years abroad doing this type of work. What advice do you provide to these young leaders that are thinking of it, that want to get into this space?
Yeah, and it's, it's an ever challenging space to be in, I think. But we've talked about how obviously meaningful it is to be able to be someone that supports this type of change, or that supports a better world for each and every human. So I think, for one, it is a lot of work, but it's also a gift, right? And I really encourage every young person who wants to make a difference and be in this line of work, be in nonprofit, be in purpose-driven work, to just drive forward, because that is what will create the change that we need to see in our world. And the other piece is around, like, bringing their leadership, right? I mean, young people. One of the things, a peeve I hate is to think about, like you're inheriting this, so it's sort of like your problem to solve, and that is not where I stand at all, right? Young people, similar to the way we talked about the partners we have in the Hunger Project, are capable, resourceful, creative, have amazing ideas, and this is the type of energy we need to tackle the world's greatest problems. So the other piece, I think, for me, that has been an important part of my own journey is finding a place for myself as an American in the equation, right? I never wanted to, and we've talked about this before, I've never wanted to be the person doing the thing for someone who's living in another country. It was always really important to me to find my role that made sense for me, that had integrity for me, with the fact that I do find that people who are living in conditions of hunger and poverty have the power, self-reliance, resilience to create their own change, and my role is I'm a supporting actor in that. So what role can I play? And that's when I sort of found my home in fundraising, in organizational development and management, in communications, because I feel like that's a role I can play here that makes sense for me, and that to me makes sense and keeps the power in the hands of people living in the countries to create their own change and drive their own change.
Supporting actor, huh? That's what you wanted to be, huh? Someone listening right now that is wanting to support, right? How can someone listening right now support what you guys are doing at the Hungers Project's mission?
Well, we definitely would love people to participate, to follow along. So you can check us out on our website at thp.org. Follow us on social media, Instagram at The Hunger Project, and on all the other social media platforms. I think engaging, spreading the word, following along, personally investing. We have the majority of our funding in the United States comes from committed individuals who want to make a difference, whether that's $5 a month. We have a program called The Core that's about our heartbeat, our core that sustains us. That is a monthly giving program. And then we have investors who invest at higher levels than that. And everything makes a tremendous impact on the world. And it's an incredible opportunity to just be in a movement of like-minded individuals who care about humanity and who care about creating a world where hunger doesn't exist. So I really think it's a win-win for anyone wanting to get involved. So I encourage people to check us out.
Love it. And you mentioned how to get to the organization, social medias and all that. But how about someone wanted to pick your brain? Are you on LinkedIn at least?
I am absolutely on LinkedIn. Please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn.
All right, cool. Because listen, someone's going to be picking your brain for sure. So I'll leave you with this blind question. Every leader we put in the hot seat, and of course, you don't know what the blind question is. But what's one moment in the field that permanently changed how you see the world and how you see yourself?
Whew. That's a really good one.
That's it. That's the hot seat question right there. I knew it was going to be a good one for you.
See, you know, I had, when I first joined the Hunger Project, so it was about 19 years ago. I visited our work in Bangladesh, as that was my first programmatic visit. And I remember, the foundation of our methodology, as we've talked about, is training, leadership development. It's supporting the capacity of local people to lead their own change. And I was in a community, and a woman was speaking about how she wanted to end child marriage in her community, and how she herself had been married when she was 12 years old, and how and we've talked about how that can perpetuate a cycle of malnutrition and hunger not ending in a community. And she talked about all the things she was going to do, and how she eventually convinced her husband, and they worked together to carry out this work and raise awareness in their community. And I heard some sniffles, and I kind of glanced over my shoulder, and there was a man there, and he was bawling his eyes out, crying. And I'm tearing up, but like, she eventually introduced her husband and invited this man to come join her in front of the room. And so I had just this, I just was really overcome with emotion, because this man was humble, and he just talked about how proud he was of his wife, she was an older woman at this stage, but he had married her when she was 12 years old as an older gentleman. And seeing that transformation, both in him and in their relationship, and then seeing the power of what is possible when men and women talk about these things, when communities embrace these conversations and create change, when women are empowered and supported to lead such change and have such challenging conversations. It was just the inspiration I get from that, hearing that sniffle over my shoulder. It also just personally was like, I'm really in it with my husband. Like, we are partners. We can take on the world. Like, personally inspired too. But it just was like such a beautiful demonstration of partnership and what's possible. And that's just always stuck with me. So I hope that answers the question.
No, it does. It does. And I love it. And I love that, just that being able, men and women, to come at the table and be 50-50 in a relationship, right? I would say that I had to learn this early on in my relationship. So I had a single, I grew up with 7 kids in the household, and my mom was a single parent. So she had a couple of boyfriends, and I would see that the boyfriends would sit on the couch. Mom would cook, she would clean, she came to work, maybe 2 jobs. So it looked very normal to me, right? So when I became in a relationship very early on, and I thought my wife was going to cook and clean and all these different things, and I remember making a joke saying, well, this is what I grew up like, this is what it looked like growing up. And she says, I don't care what you did in your household. Here we do 50-50. Okay, we're going to help each other do life. And that was one of the most realist things that she could have said to me, because there is this stigma that men do this and women do this, but no, we can actually do it all. A man can do it all, and a woman can do it all. And even like now, when I'm having these conversations with my daughter, and she mentions like, I want to do ballerina because I know there's no boy that's going to do ballerina, and you'd be very surprised on what boy is going to be doing ballerina, probably better than you, right? That's just the world that we live in. Is how do we come together to just for the greater good? Because we're not perfect. Our lives, for the gentleman, he's seen that. Wait, there was a mess up there. But it doesn't mean that I can continue to be a failure the rest of my life. I'm going to take this failure, because that's what failure does. I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to figure out, how do we continue to grow? How do we break cycles? So a hell of a story. Yeah, hell of a story for her. Kudos to her for seeing that, and kudos for him to recognizing that maybe I was in the wrong here. It wasn't intentional, right? I was only doing what life taught me. But at some point, we can break cycles. We got to come together. We got to create these missions. We got to find like-minded people that are going to help us get the message out there. And Jenna, again, amazing, right? Like you're just hearing all these stories, and you're finding ways on how do we continue to help and move the needle to make sure that we're breaking cycles. I tell you again, your kids may not see it today, but I can imagine when they're out in the world as young adults, they're going to see, man, the work that mom has done over the last 20, 30 years now, because 10 years from now, it'll be 30 years for you. And I love it. I love that this still feels like day one for you, to be quite frank. Mm-hmm. What is your blind question to the next leader that we have here in the Hart Hustle?
I would love to ask what sort. Sorry about that. I thought I closed that. I would love to ask someone what is the nugget or piece of wisdom that someone has given to them, a leader or a mentor, that they find themselves passing on again and again. Because I feel like that happens, like that happens.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just, those are such gems of wisdom, right? They really
I
live with
love that.
these little nuggets of wisdom.
That's so cool. Because I mentioned some earlier, just offline, right? Some wisdoms that I would always continue to carry. So that's a very good one. Would love to know what that actually sounds like, or looks like. Well, Jenna, I really appreciate the time that we've had together. Unfortunately, we could do this probably all day, but you got work that is calling you, and I'm pretty sure I got work that is calling me. We thank you for the conversation. It's an organization I've seen, time and time I've heard of, but never really physically seen someone or met someone that is actually doing this work, hands on. So thank you so much for just giving us the insight on what is happening at the Hungers Project, and for being an amazing woman and leader, for doing what you continue to do. Like never lose you. You said at the beginning, I show up as me everywhere, home and work. Just never lose that. Guys, my name's Efrain. This has been Jenna with the Heart and Hustle podcast. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thank
Later.
you. Thanks so much.